Hey guys, it is Sophie the Shadow Hunter, and today I'm doing my book review on Kristallnacht, Prelude to Destruction by Gilbert. This was a wonderful book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I finished it last night. This book was so captivating and interesting, and when I first started reading it, I fell in love with how it was written. I love it when people it's truly a gift, and maybe someday I'll be able to write this way. I hope to be able to present facts and true facts without fiction in an elegant way that you want, to keep on reading it. And that's what this book is. It is about facts, destruction, and persecution, about the Jewish people after Kristallnacht and how it's a prelude to the Holocaust. And, it started the wars, World War I and World War II. And how, if this maybe didn't happen, if von Hindenburg hadn't been killed, maybe I wouldn't be talking about this right now. Maybe the Holocaust wouldn't happen. And so there was some interesting sections at the end of this book talking about, yes, maybe if the kid didn't kill Hindenburg, I wouldn't be talking about this would happen. Or if it did, it would not have rampageed so quickly and got to as bad as it was so quickly. Obviously, the Night of Broken Glass was the turning point for the Jewish people and for the German people, as well as this gave them the fuel they needed to fuel the fire of their hate towards the Jewish people. We have evidence now to use against them to get people to rally with us and to try to get rid of these people who are supposedly ruining our lives and stealing from us, and who are terrible people and give us diseases and things like that. And I don't agree with that at all. I'm just talking about this is how people saw people back then, the Jewish people, and that's why they try to get rid of them. But this was an incredible story. I didn't realize, I've always wanted to know more about Kristallnacht in my books that I've written. I've tried to mention it, but I never went into depth. I need to read this book, and I still want to know more, because this was it had little snippets here and there of children who were sent on the kinder transport who never saw their families again, and about the states and the people who tried to pass legislation to let the Jews go to certain places. Some places allowed 250 people a month, some people let in thousands of people, and they didn't want to get Germany's bad side, so they shut the gates into letting the immigrants come, and the Jewish immigrants and the Germans, and not letting them in, because there were so many people who were getting relocated. If you guys have read this book, I'd love to know your comments down below, or any other books you think that I should read. There would be great insight. I appreciate it in the comments down below. So, something very interesting, which I'm not surprised about, was saying is that one of the last trucks with thousands of people, or boats of Jewish people, Americans will not let them come to America. And if they did, lots of people's lives would have been spared. And I've always wondered, why didn't America do more? Why didn't the president and our armed forces do more to try to protect these people who are being so brutally attacked and murdered systematically for no reason other than their crime was being Jewish? And I wish that our country would have done more, but I read a book, The Holocaust Conspiracy, a long time ago, which I want to reread it. And some Americans knew what was going on, and they weren't trying to do anything about it, and that is a shame that they didn't try to do that. But it's in the past, it's history now, and we can't change it, but we can only change the future by learning from the mistakes that people have made, and from learning from other people's mistakes, and learning from our mistakes, that we cannot try to let these things happen anymore. All it takes is for a good man to do nothing, or a good woman to do nothing, and obviously lots of good people, decent people, save people's lives, and they try to save more, and lots of them, it cost people their lives. And so this was just amazing to see the amount of people who tried to help these people. They went to the government to try to get bills passed to get people passports and visas so they could leave the countries and not be murdered. And it's really sad. There's this one woman who takes in these 2 Jewish children, and they were sick, and they got her sick, and she died, but she saved their lives. And these parents who gave up seeing their children so they could survive, they never saw them again. They were sent to concentration camps, and they never saw each other again. Just this book, I almost started crying. I was crying in my heart and in my soul when I read this book. The end of it, how it was so devastating and so sad, and how wrong it all was. And I think that this is an important part of history that people need to know and learn about. And I've learned so much from it, that we're all capable of doing worse, but only because of the grace of God. How we not all become people like Hitler and the Third Reich because of His grace and mercy, changing and transforming our hearts. But this is an amazing book and very interesting. Let me read some of the end part for it for you guys. Okay, it says Kristallnacht taught several lessons. It taught those who are the source of prejudice that a whole people can be demised, and that a whole nation can be turned totally and obscenely against the decent, hardworking, creative, loyal, and integral part of its own society. This point was made on August 19, 2005, when Pope Benedict the 16th, on his first visit to his native Germany after becoming Pope, went to Ronestrasse, the synagogue in Cologne, which had been destroyed in Kristallnacht and rebuilt after the war, and denounced the rise of anti-Semitism in the 21st century. Kristallnacht taught those German Jews who still retained hope that Nazism would modify its anti-Jewish stance, and that the time had come to leave excuse me, except those who still clung, as some did, to the belief that the norm of civilized behavior could not be totally breached or abandoned, and that, for example, war service for one's country must be more meaningful than a stirred-up racial animosity. During the 10 months between Kristallnacht and the outbreak of war, nearly as many German Jews left 120,000 as in the 5.5 years before the 150,000. The Austrian immigration figures for 10 months were about 140,000, thus more than 250,000 people left their homes and their homeland in the wake of the one night and the day of violence. Kristallnacht taught several overseas governments that the time had come to open their gates to the growing tide of refugees. Britain was among those countries that opened their gates widely, although still retaining, as did some countries, except for a while at least, the international settlements of Shanghai, restrictions and barriers to unrestricted immigration. Kristallnacht taught the Nazi administrators and planners that they must in the future act with silence and secrecy, hiding what they were doing to Jews from the eyes of the world and the nation. The less the outside world knew or saw, the more efficient would be whatever policy they chose, and less liable to outcome, concern, or interference. Kristallnacht taught in hindsight a historical lesson that begins as something finite in its destruction and limited in time can quickly develop into a monster of mass murder, and evil has graduations, but is also a process and can move smoothly, effortlessly toward a greater evil. 6 years of legalized anti-Jewish discrimination, isolating the Jews from their fellow Germans and depriving them of their rights of full citizenship, were replaced on Kristallnacht by the first manifestations of direct nationwide physical violence, combined with arson, the destruction of property and the theft of property, the implement of a whole community physical assault, deportation, and mass murder. It was brutal, hysterical, uninhibited assault on everything Jewish, on a far wider scale than hitherto, and yet only a prelude to something far larger still. As they were taking place, the events of Kristallnacht shocked sensitive human men and women every year. First, immigration was still possible, and then the Nazi regime turned from extrusion to extermination. These were always those who made every effort to take in refugees and to save those who could be saved. Such generous souls were few in number but large in spirit. Thanks to them, amid the collapse of morality survived, and amid the ruins of civilization was reborn with lusts are irreplaceable. So that was just an amazing, and that was like 2.5 pages of the book, and it was amazing, and it rounded out the book so greatly. I hope you guys liked this video, and I hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys next time in another one. Goodbye.